we are. Here we are. In the man cave. I don't need that sucker. I'm not using that right now. Just using my Canon R7? Canon R7? Seems to have pretty good audio on it, right? It's working. I'm not using the camera and the laptop anymore. That one kind of sucks. Anyway, maybe Santa will bring me a proper audio setup for the new year. I'll make this a little more quality. Maybe. Right? Now, what do we got? A couple of small notes. Sarah's brother's still here. He's an officer in the military, and he's been to war. He's done some insane shit. He's the guy that went in and defused bombs, amongst other crazy things. And it's interesting, she said to me again last evening, she says, you know, when my brother was telling me about feeling like he was being stalked outside, she goes, he had goosebumps all over both of his arms. I'm like, really? Holy shit. He didn't say anything to me about it, but his sixth sense was going the hell off right outside the door here. Do I think it was the black bear that rushed my neighbor across the road? No. This black bear's... I've been stalked by a black bear. For real. It wanted to kill me and eat me. It didn't give off a vibe. I've had a grizzly bear follow me. I had a grizzly bear follow me for... I don't know how far it was. It was probably about a mile. All the way back to camp. Followed me. And my hunter and our two horses. I was off the horse walking downhill quite a ways. And that sucker tried to get me on the porch of the cabin. Didn't give off a vibe, though. I didn't pick up any vibe. I didn't pick up nothing. Not a thing. That'll be Adventure Dog chewing on our morning elk bone. If you can hear that sound, whatever. And, say it's kind of odd. There's some odd things going around my property, but for a very A-type confident guy, to have that reaction, that feeling in my yard is a little bit of a, huh? What's going on out there, right? What's going on? What else? I got on a bit of a binge a little while ago while I was hunting. I was listening to a lot of near-death experiencers. I found it quite interesting there, and I saw a lot of very strong patterns. I look into a lot of different topics, not just one that, I look into a lot of different topics. Anyway, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about a lot of different items. But then I heard one came on there and said that, I forget who the message was from. It was from the other side, saying, why bother wasting time trying to discover the afterlife? You'll find out soon enough, because this lifetime is very short. And I'm like, I thought it kind of struck me like, oh, point taken. Point taken, right? Point taken. I mean, I do enjoy learning about near-death experiencers, the afterlife. I'm trying to put everything together, all the clues, all the different items I've got packed away on shelves in my noggin. I'm trying to put things together, make sense of a lot of stuff so I can learn and possibly master this lifetime before it's over. So I'm always feeling like I'm running out of time, right? But that one does make a little sense. It makes you kind of not rethink, but make sure you stay aware that this lifetime is going to be over soon enough. So what do you want to master before it's up? Have you mastered what you believe you are here for yet? Do you think? You know what I mean? I wish I get that message. What's going on with these? I got scratched ones, not scratched ones. I'm curious to know how many people actually have mastered what they want to master in this lifetime, opposed to how many people are just bumbling along, following the masters, right? The absolute shitbags who have ruined life for so many people. Such a grand scale. How many of you have mastered what you came here to do? How many of you even know what you came here to do for you? and others. You know what I mean? You might want to think about that if you haven't yet. Think about that one. Oh, sounds like a delicious bone down there. Now, I want to get into hearing about other people. Hearing from other people. I love hearing from the people. It's an addiction to me. I've learned so much through all the people here over the years. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, what do we got? These are kind of older, and what do we got here? This is, I know who this person is. Never met him, but I knew his dad. Crazy on the island. I was hunting black-tailed deer up fairly high in elevation in the Port Renfrew area and noticed some fairly large trees, willows, had been pulled straight up and out of the ground on a deactivated logging road and placed in the middle of the road, roots and all. No marks in the trunk of the trees whatsoever. My son and I had parked my side-by-side and walked in about 300 yards up this road to get a view and had come along this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any pictures of what had been done. We turned around and left the area quite quickly and never went back. I'm wondering if you would know what this could be. The same weekend and same mountain opposing side, someone had reported seeing a large black creature, 2 legs, running across the tree line. I also have pictures of large tracks on my cat hunts I've come across. Thanks for reading, Des. And then I got his other email attached here with photos. I was going to retrieve one of my hounds, which did not return on a chase in some very steep terrain. On my way up to the ridge, I came across some huge ass tracks. I'm size 9. If you look close, you can see the outline of human-looking track with some toes by the looks of it. Port Renfrew area, Lens Creek / San Juan Valley. Thanks for reading, Des. It's tough. Daytime photo. Man, that's some squished ground. I can see it. Especially the heel. I can see that heel imprint. You can see everything's just mashed. For sure. There we go. Des, I hope you're still watching hope you're still here watching the channel, man. I miss a shit pile of emails, obviously. And Lens Creek, so just up from Lens Creek, I believe, is where my grandfather ran into that one in the San Juan Valley. Head of the San Juan. And I think another guy from here, another guy who follows my shit online, Jesse, let's say Jesse N, he sent some pictures in of worn out huge tracks in frozen logging road, same area as well. You probably know him. If you found anything else out, send it to me, man, alright? If you learned much more, send it to me, for sure. There you go, right in the backyard, right where my grandfather had his face-to-face in broad daylight in July so many years ago. And he was concerned. He wasn't scared, he was concerned. Hi, my name is Tony. I'm a veteran of 30 years military service. So over the years, I have seen and witnessed many, many unreal sights. Not service-related. The one I can't forget is while on exercise in Norway, winter training, I was setting up an OP in a mountain region. I can give you the areas as they are still used today. Oh, I can't give you the areas as they are still used today, loose lips, etc. And as a hunter, you have witnessed winters. A normal winter in Norway is as you would expect. 30-foot snow drifts, accessed by ski and snowshoes only. Short days and long nights. And after 13 winters in the area, I thought winter trained. Holy shit, 13 winters you donated. So the area was rough and hard going, and from the drop-off point to the OP was around 6 to 10 kilometers, depending on the route you planned to take. I'd already conducted a recon, RECCE, previous to the move, so I was quite happy that I had selected the best route for my team. We had to go through a woodland area followed by a steep incline across a small plateau and up to a rocky outcrop overlooking a valley. And as we arrived at our OP, we started to get into a routine. Set up OP RV in rear, sentry locations, etc. I was then informed that my radio operator left the spare batteries at the drop-off point. After telling him what a bad radio man he was, I had no option but to go by myself and retrieve them. So I left them with tasks, and being the most experienced in the area, in this arena, I left. Making good time downhill, I followed the tracks to the woodland. When I moved through the woods, I came across this clearing that was not there when we came through a few hours earlier. I looked behind, and the ski tracks of the team were evident, so I was on the right track. But the clearing was bathed in sunlight, not a flake of snow. But the grass was the greenest I've ever seen, and the trees were perfect. Beautiful flowers everywhere. What? I took my skis off and had to sit and take it all in. There were goats. White as snow with bells chiming. So sweet it was hypnotizing, just grazing as if I was not there. The birds were chirping at a volume that was so intense that I really felt at home. I was blending into the clearing. I've never felt so at peace before or after that event. Ever. I just wanted to stay. I knew this is where I was meant to be. I had no fear, no real feelings, just a good, calm, restful peace coming over me. Then a goat bleated and shook me awake, and I stood up and walked slowly out of the clearing and back into the snow. I retrieved the batteries, made my way back to the OP. The more direct route, as I was only carrying my survival pack and the batteries, I arrived at the OP in record time as I wanted everything set up ready to go. The team looked at me and said, "Where the F have you been? We were just about to report you missing." I sat and told them what happened. And after a fit of laughter and a lot of piss-taking, I said, "Well, look at this." I took my face shield off and my gloves, and the laughing stopped as they saw my tanned skin. I had, by my timing, only been about 3 hours. As I later found out, it was 5 hours. So the rest of the exercise went on without any other incident, and all I wanted to do was show these assholes what I was talking about, but as you have already guessed, used the same trail but no clearing. Also a lot more piss-taking. Can you or have you heard of any other experience like this? I hope you can tell my story, as I have a theory that this could be the reason people never return from outdoor walking and camping, as in the missing 411. Tony. Holy shit, Tony. I don't know, man. I mean, we've had my friend from Mount Curry said that his friend was ahead of the group walking down the trail, and then something happened, and all of a sudden he is behind them on the trail. So there's a little bit of evidence of a human being going somewhere in the woods in the face of the planet and showing up again somewhere else on the face of the planet. I don't know. Then you've got the alleged report of basically green, beautiful zone in Antarctica. That's been relayed to the public via a few routes. Is that similar? I don't know. Does that come and go? Is that here full time? Don't know. Is there a different place parallel with us? I believe that 110%. Without a frickin' doubt. The veil, right? Did the veil thin right out where you were at the time? Sounds like it. I'm definitely not the guy to make sense of it for the people here. But I can be the messenger. That's crazy. So, here we go again. A brand new one. Has anybody else experienced something like that? And if you have, don't be chicken shit to share it here, all right? This is the place to do it. Okay? This is the place to do it. Just, I don't have to know your name. If you have experienced something like this, get it to us. We want to hear about it, especially this man that experienced it. You got to think about it again. Once again, how many people wake up in the morning and think to themselves, I wonder what I should make up today. I'm going to make up this story about the time I was in Norway. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to completely make it up from scratch. I'm going to find this asshole on YouTube and I'm going to email it to him. So nobody ever. Unless you're an absolute psychopath, which I do not believe this man is. Right? Crazy. Man, that bone sounds good down there, doesn't it? I haven't had any breakfast yet. How was it? Is that good? Hey, Bubs? Good pick of what I saw. Hi, Steve. Love your stories and your lifestyle. My name is Eric Black, and I live in Washington. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Oops. Sorry if I have too many details. This picture is the closest I've found to what I saw at age 16 in 1982 while elk hunting in Washington State. On the breaks of the Columbia River, at least 10 miles below any trees. All sagebrush and rimrock. It was at the head of Bryant Canyon. It is covered with wind machines now, but I will never forget that day as long as I live. I was with two other teens while their fathers were hiking the canyon towards us, hoping to drive elk our way. We had rifles, 7mm mag, 308, 30-06. We watched it walk the bottom of the steep canyon from over a mile away to within 100 yards of us in 7 to 8 minutes maybe. Whoa. It had the same blonde color, long arms, and 2 short legs. Huge dinner plate hands and hair all over, as in this pic. We put scopes on it, and were scared shitless. It was not an elk, and it was not a dude. We were getting panicked as it came closer, and as it got inside 100 yards, we all stood and put our rifles on it. It was about 200 feet lower elevation than us at that point, and when it saw us, it froze up in kind of a holy shit posture for about 2 seconds. Then it turned 90 degrees and went straight up the side of the canyon. It wasn't really running, but it was definitely hauling ass. We watched it crest the hill and disappear over into the next canyon. Never saw it again, but did find some tracks where it had crossed a road in the other canyon. Hunter orange was not required in 1982, but I never saw another hunter that wasn't at least wearing a red plaid shirt or orange hat. Anyone walking through this area in a hair suit on general elk opener would be a suicidal dumbass. I did not take this picture, but wanted to share it with you. It is real and exactly what I saw in bright sunshine on October 30th, 1982. And that son of a bitch had a 6-pack. Zoom in. I believe it was taken in North Cascades in the late 80s. And of course, our own father said we must have been smoking some funny stuff. I've been going salmon fishing on Vancouver Island since the 80s with my parents, Telegraph Cove. In 1998, I saw a Sasquatch run down and dive into the water from the westernmost point of Cracroft Island, Cracroft Island. It surfaced one time, and I never saw it again. The current can rip through there at times, so I don't know if it was catching the current to travel or just getting out of sight. When it did surface, the one time, it reminded me of a sea lion taking a breath. And I was locked onto it with binoculars by then and never saw it again. Had I not seen it run into the water, I would have not noticed it wasn't a sea lion. I was just there 3 weeks ago. Fishing was good and I didn't see any Sasquatch, so it was a good trip. Thanks for all you do. Love it when you crush the douchebags. F them. Feel free to use either story, but please no names. Thanks. Wow. That's pretty intense, man. Surprised you guys didn't unload on it back in the day, right? 3 of you, ready to rip, and those guns are all pretty powerful rifles. They'll dump any moose. Now, that picture, it's been sent to me in the past. We've had it on here in the past. Uses a thumbnail. And I don't really give a shit about thumbnails. Just like sometimes the video, when you load the video on YouTube, it chooses the thumbnail for you. And if it's absolutely stupid looking, I'll replace it with something random on my phone. Like the other day when the thumbnail, YouTube chose the thumbnail with Rosie O'Donnell's face on it. Whoops! Oh well, I didn't really give a shit. Left it there. But that's how the thumbnails get on there, and I used that. Somebody emailed me this photo before. I've used it for the thumbnail. And I don't know if... Did I get shit for using it? I can't remember. It's funny how there's a lot of people... There's a good handful of people in line. They'll get a photograph or something. And then as soon as it hits the internet, that's all she wrote. I don't give a shit who you are, what you think you can legally do. It don't matter, man. The second you text somebody a photograph, unless you absolutely trust him, but the second you put a photo online, there it goes. You can threaten people, you can put any watermark on it you want. Nothing's going to happen to anybody for sharing that picture, unless you got a shit pile of money and it's really, truly something nasty, private or whatever, I don't know, but I've had somebody send me a picture of this thing. His face is looking over a snaggly stump. It looks like some kind of a character from an old fantasy movie. And I shared it. And the owner, the original photographer, emailed me and said, "That's my picture. Please take it off. I've got copyrights to it, blah, blah, blah." Okay, dude. You can copyright the shit out of anything you want these days. Ain't going to make a difference. If you really think you're going to make money off of an alleged Sasquatch photo today, 2024, you're really missing a lot. It's not going to happen. But anyways, I'm just saying that. I'll share this photo again. It was shared here through this person. Somebody blows a gasket. Well, you probably shouldn't have put it online. Right? And apparently, allegedly, this is a legitimate photo. Do I know that is true myself? Don't know. I wasn't there. Wasn't there. Who's next? Whoops. Better mark that as red. I didn't. This next one's titled My Small Encounter. I just finished watching your latest video, Sasquatch and Joe Rogan, and you talked me into sharing my encounter. I love your channel and please keep it up. Okay, this is a while back, so I remember, well, who knows if it's a while back, but that Rogan one was a while back. I actually got triggered. I'll admit it, I got triggered. And I lashed out. I think it was when somebody sent me the video. He was talking to some idiot. I think it might have been talking to the celebrity wildlife biologist. Oh my God. Some people are just go through life so cringe, man. But anyway. And he says something effective. The people that believe in Bigfoot are uneffable white people, or something like that. And it was right fresh in the beginning, when I had a lot of battles going on online behind the scenes and on the camera, but there was a lot of battles going on when I first came forward. A lot of the so-called big names, different groups, individuals with semi-big followings, whatever you want to call it, all coming after me, making videos about me. And I was fighting left, right, and center. Obviously won every battle. But anyway, and at the time, I'm like, oh yeah? I think I said something to the effect of, you know, if it was back in the day, if the girls had to choose who they were going to go after, it'd definitely be my grandfather over you short little coward. And I just went on to sit, and I ran him into the ground because at the time, I was just triggered. Do I have a poor attitude towards Joe Rogan? No. Do I listen to his podcast? No. Think he's a bad person? No. You know, what am I trying to say? I'm just trying to say, yeah, I was triggered, and I went after him that day. Whatever. Am I ashamed of it? No. It's just protecting my grandfather, right? But it's like, now, who gives a shit, really, right? You know what I mean? I mean, I could easily point out that Rogan's scared to be in the woods by himself, can't go hunting by himself, probably doesn't even have a trail camera, doesn't even know how to find any game by himself. Whatever. Maybe one day he will, maybe one day he won't, but after listening to his podcast, I guarantee you he's too scared to go by himself. Is that an insult? Nope. That's just a professional guide reading a person when they're in the woods. There's a bit of a freaking caffeine-induced ramble, isn't it? Do I even need to bother saying all that shit? Probably not. Now, I'm born and raised in Utah, and I've been in the woods hunting as soon as I could walk. I was hunting elk in the high Uintas. I've been corrected on pronouncing those mountains in the past. Uintas. A long ways out from any road. Uintahs. I was in very thick pines. just after a good rainstorm, and it was dead silent, other than the sound of a close-by creek. I was getting close to the creek. As I was getting close to the creek, I caught wind of something that I can't really explain the smell of, other than a wet dog that had been dead for a while. And it stopped me in my tracks. The second I stopped, I heard a large animal take off, and it was a very heavy sound. I immediately assumed it was an elk, and it was headed toward the creek. I took off running toward a small clearing, hoping to get a look. Once I got there, I realized that was where the creek was. I began moving along the stream toward the animal I heard, and just as I started, I heard a splash, then silence. I took off again towards where I figured the splash was, and I looked down into the creek, and there in the creek was the biggest human leg track I've ever seen. It was at least 16 or 17 inches long, probably 10 inches wide, and was disappearing quickly due to the streaming water. Even though I was completely in shock, I was still trying to get my flip phone, yes, it was that long ago, out to get a picture. But I didn't get it in time. It was terrifying to say the least. I headed back towards the trailhead, and I swear it was following me and watching me. Needless to say, I survived. But I now have a ton more intuition when I enter the woods. You're only the third person I've told. I hope you liked it. Keep doing what you're doing. Jeremy from Utah. It ain't a matter of liking it or not, Jeremy. There's no judging here on encounters. It's just truth being shared so we can all try to figure out what the hell's going on. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club, man. I'm glad you know that you're not alone. You know you're not alone. You know, it's funny, listen to Intuitives. Went on a bit of a bender there, trying to find people who are allegedly in communication with these people. And a few people have said that these beings can come and go when they want here, to this dimension, plane, whatever you want to call it, this existence we're in. Do I believe that to be true? Yes, I do. But that's just me. Take from what you will or leave it, right? But that cracks open more questions for me. If they allegedly go somewhere else, but they allegedly like it here better for some reason, why or what else is coexisting with them where they come from? What else is there? And I mean everything, right from insects to reptiles, animals, beings, whatever. And if that is the truth, then why is it that we are not seeing other beings, animals, whatever they have, is living next to them in their realm, their dimension, their plane, whatever you want to call it? Why are we not having just as many eyewitness encounters as of other forms of life besides them from where they originate from? That making any sense? It'd be like us and everything that exists with us here. And let's just say we could travel through some absolute bizarre route to get to another dimension, another realm, another existence. What's stopping all the other life beside us from joining us over there and having a peekaboo? A grizzly bear, a wolf, a puppy, I don't know, a panda bear, who gives a shit, a seal, I don't care, whatever, right? Why, if it is true that these beings are coming from somewhere else when they feel like it to here with us, why is it just them? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense to me. I'm sure it could make sense, maybe possibly if I had more information and knowledge, but that's not really making sense to me. I'm trying to put that puzzle piece together. It's like, are you sure? Maybe possibly you just know how to leave our sight, but you're really still here full time? You know what I mean? Or is it possible you came here another way? Meaning possibly from a vehicle of some type that you had to be loaded into. Which then would absolutely stop the possibility of other life joining you here from a thin veil opening. You picking up what I'm putting down yet? we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people witnessing the same being, same description, generally the same description, right? The dog man thing, these people. But there's nothing else being seen as common. Meaning, I don't know, an alien sea lion, whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's no other life joining them through the veil to come and hang out here for a little bit. How is that? How is that prevented? Well, that would be prevented if they didn't come through a veil. It would be prevented if they came here through some type of vehicle, or the door is shut behind them and nothing else is allowed to come here with them. I don't know. Making any sense? Add to it in the comment section below or whatever. Have a discussion about it. Fill me in. This lifetime's crazy. Kind of pisses me off sometimes that it's like we got to restart our education, right? Erase the bullshit we've been fed since we were kids and start again. That's how I've been feeling for quite some time. We're getting there. Northern California, Del Norte County. I really appreciate your candidness about what you've seen in the woods. My story dates back to 1999. There's a state park near where I live in Fort Dick, California, called Yontocket Slough. Back in 1999, it was illegal to hunt waterfowl in the slough, which consists of sand dunes and ponds. I was in my early 20s and frequently hunted the ponds during duck season. One morning at roughly 4 a.m., I was hiking into the ponds when something froze me in my tracks. It was pitch black out, and I only had a small flashlight. I heard some very heavy stomping sounds from directly in front of me. There were several sand dunes that made it difficult to see what was making the sounds I heard, but I could tell it was very large. I was thinking a black bear or an elk, as they are frequently seen in the area. I just had a feeling that I was in danger. I had goosebumps on my neck. I raised my shotgun and pointed it toward the sound and slowly crept forward. The creature had to be right behind a sand dune in front of me. And as I came around the dune, I heard very heavy footprints running and angling away from me up the trail. I took 3 or 4 quick steps forward, but was too slow to catch a glimpse of it, and it disappeared over a more distant dune. It was then that I heard the loudest, most shrill scream I had ever heard at any time in my life. It sounded like a woman screaming, just way more loud. It screamed twice, then all was quiet. I decided to sit tight until light and then go take a look around. I couldn't find any tracks because of the sand, but I know something very large was there. There were deep footprints, but just too vague to make out. I can rule out a bear because I've seen quite a few of those around these parts, and just doesn't make sense with the sounds the creature made. Ever saw anything more since that morning, and I kid around with my friends about my Bigfoot story, even though I didn't see what was there. The noises and the scents I had did not line up with any animal I know of. I wasn't too scared because I was holding a shotgun, so I guess I am lucky in that regard, but I refuse to go in the woods hunting or otherwise without a firearm. That probably has more to do with drug growers and dealers than anything else, but the event still registers in my memory. I have kind of forgotten of this event until I came across the following story on YouTube. It's a crazy story, almost unbelievable, but this occurred in the exact same location at roughly the same time as my experience. Ryan Young, Crescent City, California. Appreciate that share, Ryan. You know what it was. We know what it was. And you sent me a YouTube channel link or something, a video, but I got no internet in here. My Starlink's busted. Sucks ass. Sucks ass. Next. Sasquatch question mark. Howdy. A couple days ago, I came across your hunting videos on YouTube while checking out bear attacks. I grew up hunting deer, birds, etc. with my pop, now long gone. I can track critters, not professionally, but fair to middling. Loved a salmon and steelhead fish since before women in my Northwest Washington stopping grounds really picked it up. Enough about me. As I watched your Sasquatch videos today, I felt a sense of relief. I commented vaguely about an experience I had in 74, 75 with a good country friend of mine, Ed. I'd like to tell you about it, as it's been a basically buried experience. Traumatic, I must say, of which I've only told a few close friends and family. Who the hell's gonna believe you, right? I never told inflated yarns. No one who's lived a full and adventurous life has to fabricate anything, right? Bingo. My World War II veteran pop taught me better than that. Anywho, I don't want to waste your time. I'd simply like to unload this story/experience on you. Find out what you think, okay? In the years I stated above, probably 1974, shortly after Memorial Day, my friend Ed asked if I'd like to go with. He wanted to buy an old homestead/property up in the northeast Washington state, into the foothills of North Cascades. Away we went. Had a great time for about a week with him. Me and his two half-wolf, half-husky dogs. Full-grown mother and her male pup. We were inching hugging the Cascades on a twisty, remote 2-lane road, eventually, sorta, heading back to Highway 2, cross, and go home on the west side, taking it easy. Drove up the mountainside of a very narrow valley, an old logging road, one night and stopped to sleep. Decided to sleep on the ground next to the truck. Settled down in sleeping bags and snored away. Abruptly awakened at next daylight by the wolves/dogs, raising a ruckus about 5 feet from us. They'd treed a black bear right next to us on the edge of the ravine. The bear was a good 300 pounds, fatty. Took one look at us, humped down that tree, down the super steep ravine, and hauled us up the equally steep other side and into the forest. Damn, that bear was fast. Okay, wow, good dogs, good dogs. Off we went. Still narrow valley, hugging the North Cascades. Took our time, and eventually the valley started to open up a bit. Still maybe half a mile wide. We were tired as hell and said, screw it. Pulled off the narrow road onto a bit of a pull-out, figuring we'd sleep in the open bed of the truck. Head for Stevens Pass in the AM. Okay, sleeping bags on steel bed of dialysis power wagon. Me and my bag, Ed and his bag, and wolf/dogs curled up next to us. Nightfall. Woke up, all of us, to the blackest black of midnight. Dry lightning storm raging. Not sure why we woke up. We're off the road at the southwest corner of a tightly strung 6-strand barbed wire fenced valley pasture. The dogs were sitting side by side at the closed tailgate of the truck. Silently straining to see through the sheer black of the night, we both had sat up abruptly, backs against the truck cab, and without a word, we too strained to see anything through the night. Every bolt of lightning simply blinded us. We and the dogs were all staring silent toward that field. Not a peep out of any of us. Then we heard what I figured were stampeding, terrified horse screaming and running away. In just seconds, Lordy, it felt like forever, we could hear a low, harsh huffing advancing toward us with added heavy-duty footfalls. And oh my God, I'd thought, bear. At initial screams from the field followed by huffing, right? But no, the footfalls came closer and closer toward us, and they were obviously bipedal. A 2-legged critter, methodically heading toward the pasture corner where we and our truck was parked, and each step had so much time between them. It was obviously huge. A heavy animal. As it drew closer to us, all 4 of us literally frozen in place and totally silent. Each footfall began to send physical vibration up through that dually steel bed power wagon and vibrate into us. That's crazy, right? That is insane. Without skipping a single beat in whatever that creature's stride, it walked right through that 6-strand tight barbed wire fence wire popping and twanging. The creature, huffing with each rhythmic breath, crossed the paved road we were sleeping by. Without a single hesitation, that creature plowed right through the same barbed wire fence across the road and continued up and into the mountains. Never a change of pace, not a single faltered in its massive stride. No hurry, super focused on its direction, and nothing else. Both Ed and I, both wolf dogs, never made a sound or a muscle twitch. I'd never before or since been literally frozen with fear. A terrible shock afterwards to realize how totally helpless you could actually be. When we snapped out of our frozen state, knew that whatever was gone. Knew the whatever was gone. We clambered down into the truck cab, hauled ass for our faraway homes. The nagging question / regret that's plagued me is the question our few friends actually told about the event also asked. Excuse me. Damn, why didn't you go back the next day? There must have been hair stuck in all that barbed wire, maybe even footprints. The simple answer, sadly, was that we were so terrified that night, neither of us ever went back. So, Steve, what do you say? Was it two-legged, huge, and super heavy, and hell-bent on melting into its North Cascades wilderness? I'm thankful you know what I'm talking about. S. Faye Bengston, RN. There you go. Hope you didn't say not to use your name. See, I always got to go back and check the front of the email again. Didn't say not to use it, so there you go. What do I think it was? Well, I think we all know what it was. I think the biggest question for me is why didn't it step over the fence? Was it his first time here? Did not know about fences? Was the dry electrical storm screwing up its sensories to sense there's barbed wire in front of it? I don't know. Don't know. One thing that does strike my curiosity is how many times these beings are seen going, traveling that way, absolutely focused, going. Where are they going? What's so important about getting there? Where'd you come from? This next email is, thanks for sending that email in, by the way. Absolutely appreciate that share from you. Very generous people to email in. Section was titled Bigfoot Encounter. Hi, Steve. Thank you for creating this forum to educate and in my case, help me heal from the experience I had. It's too easy. I'm glad it's helping. I had a face-to-face encounter with a male Bigfoot in the first week of October 2016 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Massive. Well-developed and very healthy looking. Jet black hair with an oil-like sheen in the sunlight. Long arms, powerfully built like beyond steroids. Hair was very thick, and I only knew it was hair by the way it was stringy looking on the forearms. Chest, breastplate was like slate gray color leather, which was not hair covered and did not have a weathered or cracked dry appearance. Face is flat. Straight lips. Did not show teeth. The nose was flat. The eyes were black with no white or pupil showing. Face was the same color as breastplate and did not have a weathered appearance. Hair on the abdomen had some white/gray streaks starting at the exophoid process, wrapping around the diaphragm and streaked down into the groin on each side. I did not see male genitals. Upper legs were massively built like true tree trunks. I did not see from the knees down. The time was about 1:30 in the afternoon, the temperature around 60. Mostly sunny day, but we were on the north slope of an east/west running ridge of mixed timber, pine, hemlock, cedar, and poplar/aspen trees. Sun was at my back and in his face, though the canopy which showed the oil-like sheen on the hair. Sun was at my back and in his face through the canopy which showed the oil-like sheen on the hair. The wind was from the southwest at maybe 5 miles per hour. I did not smell it, as it was a crosswind. The entire ridge was covered with tree snaps. X's on the ground, and maple tree bends. There was also 2 pine trees that had branches knocked off, and they were woven into a shield or a blind-like structure. This being wanted me to see it. I was looking at a tree bend, and it made a noise to make me look at it. Not a grunt or a growl, maybe just a smack or a thud on a tree. I looked and told myself, that looks like a deltoid and a bicep muscle. Then my brain put the whole package together, and we were eye to eye. I started to back up in pure fear of what I was looking at. Maybe 30 feet for 30 seconds, I'm not sure. Scared shitless. And can't really remember getting back to my truck at maybe 200 yards away. It did not follow me, and I thank the Lord for that. I've had other unexplained events in the woods from ages 14 to 54. I currently live in North Carolina, and I'm really not worth the crap in the woods anymore. Other than opening day of deer season, I never traveled into the woods with a weapon. Other than opening day of rifle deer season, I never traveled in the woods with a weapon or even a knife. Your recent story of the torn cedar bark hit home. I found 4 cedar trees stripped the same way, and they all showed 5 nail marks in the shape of a huge handprint. I believe they used these markers for night navigation, as the ones I found ran in a straight line for half a mile. Use this as you will. Please caution people not to go looking for them. You cannot unsee what you will find. Respectfully, Larry Hintsella. Whew. That's an intense moment in life, Larry. Eh? Pretty intense. Do I believe those are markers for them to travel? Nope. They're far too advanced for that shit. But the one man that emailed me from British Columbia, he said that he could see the drag marks on the left side of the two prints facing the cedar tree, peeling strips of the bark off the tree, and he could see where all the strips were dragging on the ground in the other hand of the being as it walked away with the cedar strips. So, obviously using them for something. Wherever they are, wherever they end up, they're using them for something there. That's pretty intense. It didn't want you to go any further, did it? Now you gotta wonder why. I mean, obviously you're not gonna annihilate their life. Why don't they want you to go forward? They're saving you, saving themselves. What is it? Bigfoot Story is the title of this next one. Hi, Steve. I'm 70 years old. 70 years old, and this happened to us back in 68 or 69, the opening day of trout season, about June 1st, and me and my buddy were backpacking into the Marble Mountain wilderness of Northern California. Marble Mountain, seen a good photo of something standing on top of that thing with a blue bomber day behind it. We arrived at the empty parking lot at the trailhead about noon. There were no other vehicles there. Our destination was 1 Mile Lake. I guess about a 15-mile trek. Hike. We threw our packs on and headed up the trail. Our goal for the day was to make it to Hay Press Meadows and spend the night, about a 6-mile hike. We made it no problem. There's some snow on the ground, but we were kind of expecting that because it had been a tough winter that year. Next morning we'd headed out, and the higher we got, the more snow we encountered. It's getting difficult to even find the trail and stay on it. The trails are horse trails, so they're pretty mellow, and usually take the long way around, which is understandable. We knew the lake. We knew that the lake we were headed to was on the other side of the mountain we were on. And since we had a hard time keeping on the trail anyway, we decided to leave the trail and just head straight up the mountain and straight down the other side to the lake. It took a few hours, but we made it to the top. From there, we could see the lake. There was ice on the lake, but the edges were open water. So we knew we could fish, and that was a relief. We started down to the lake and came across a small clearing in the brush and the trees. The clearing was about 200 feet in diameter. We could see what looked like human tracks in the snow going through the clearing, which we thought was odd because we knew we were the only ones on the mountain. The nearest parking lot was empty, and we knew no one was ahead of us. On closer inspection, we could tell beyond a shadow of a doubt we were looking at Bigfoot tracks. The stride is about 5 to 6 feet apart, and we're clear as a bell. You see the toes. We both looked at each other and said, Bigfoot tracks at the same time. There they are, right in front of us, plain as day. Then, for some reason, we looked at each other and started laughing. It was hilarious at the time. Indisputable proof that Bigfoot exists. We were just kids at the time, and neither of us had a camera. That was something neither of us could afford nor had any interest in. Who would want to carry the extra weight anyway? We told a few people about it later, but they always look at you like you're either lying or made some mistake. So eventually you just quit saying it. That's my story, Steve. Thank you for believing it. Feels good to be able to tell the truth to someone like you. Steve Cooksey. There you go, man. Welcome to the club. It's funny you guys reacted by laughing. That's a nervous reaction. Don't you think? Guaranteed that was a nervous reaction. Nothing to be ashamed of. But I can join you in the giggle about it for sure. 2002 Pennsylvania Bigfoot sighting. Appreciate you sharing that email with us, man. I really appreciate it. Hi, Steve. Hope you're doing well. I just want to thank you for the very entertaining personal touch you add to your videos and the offer to share others' experiences. Of course, I heard of Sasquatch, and Dad took me to see the Patterson film as a kid. I never really believed or even thought much about the subject until I had my own encounter. It all happened back in the summer of '02, but I remember it like yesterday. One day, while picking up my pay in the war room at Fort Indian Town Gap, picking up my pay in the war room, I overheard news that my National Guard unit was about to get orders to deploy as part of an Operation Enduring Freedom. At that time, I was a rifleman with the COC 111th Infantry 56th Stryker Brigade out of Kutztown, PA. I'd currently volunteered for state active duty as a part of Operation Noble Eagle, guarding the Limerick Generating Station, Limerick Generating Station. I was carrying full combat load on that detail for almost a year when asked to be relieved. At the time, I really wanted to deploy with my unit. You know, that whole band of brother thing. Plus, the retirement points and veterans benefits increase if you're deployed in combat. I guess you have to be a grunt to get it because my civilian friends thought I was out of my mind. 42-year-old infantrymen wanting to be sent to an area of hostile fire. Ha. Now that I look back, I guess I was a little nuts. It was then when a friend offered to take me up on a weekend camping trip to a little pay-to-camp site along the banks of West Branch of the Susquehanna, just west of Williamsport, PA. It was meant to be a relaxing trip before I deployed. And while there, we would drink a few beers, look for Indian arrowheads in nearby fields, and he was also going to give me a flint napping lesson. We soon got bored with the field walking after only finding a few broken projectile points and some chippings. There's a good flowing feeder stream emptying into the river just downstream called Big Run, and I wanted to explore it. I've been hunting arrowheads for many years and have found that almost every stream and spring in PA has a small Native American hunting camp at the head, where the water first pops up out of the ground. Really, that's interesting to me. It was really hot that day, and my friend got tired after a mile or so, and he wanted to turn back. I, however, was determined to find a camp and went on alone. Followed the stream for another mile or two, when it eventually got so thick with rhododendron, it became nearly impossible to follow. At that point, I started to hear the sound of a highway way off in the distance and found a crushed soda can in the stream. That sucks. I hate it when that happens. You think you're in the middle of nowhere, probably nobody's ever been here, and there's a chunk of flagging tape or whatever. From the can, I came to the conclusion that the head of the stream was somewhere on the other side of the highway. The farther away than I was prepared to travel. At the bottom of the mountain, I remembered seeing an old logging road that ran up the gorge to the left of the stream. I decided that would be the easiest and quickest way back down to the river. After fighting my way through the thick undergrowth, I finally found the old logging path that was about 200 yards to the left of the stream. As soon as I located the path, I found a nice flat spot that had a push pile for making the road, so I decided to scratch around in the pile to see if I could find any traces of flint chips in the soil. I found whole arrowheads in these topsoil piles in the past at other locations. All I found in the pile that day was a few small northern ring-necked snakes. It was getting even hotter, and I was almost out of water, so I decided to pack up my scratcher and head back down the mountain. And not 2 steps into my journey home, standing about 60 yards in front of me, was the most terrifying experience in my life. Honestly, I would like to think that I'm a fairly brave man, but I was not prepared for this second encounter at all. I was not prepared for this encounter at all. Being an experienced infantry soldier and avid big game hunter, it takes a lot to rattle me. What I saw standing in front of me shook me to my very core, and I instantly froze. A flood of thoughts went through my mind in a second. I wanted it to be a bear in the worst way, just like I've seen many times before, but it just wasn't a bear. When I realized what it actually was, overwhelming fear hit me, and I felt like I was going to vomit. When it turned and started running toward the stream where I just came from, I could not believe the speed it achieved in such a short time. I could clearly see these 2 massive muscular legs running, because the deer had everything browsed off as high as they could reach. The legs alone had to be as tall as me. I'm 5'6", so this thing was probably almost 6 foot just to the waist. Being a long-time bear hunter, I'm thinking this creature had to weigh anywhere from 800 to 1,200 pounds minimum, and stood approximately 9 to 11 feet tall. The legs were thick and muscular, and reminded me of hair-covered telephone poles. The hair appeared to be very dark brown or maybe black, and I'm thinking no more than 4 inches long. Excuse me. It actually sounded like a bulldozer busting through the rhododendrons, snapping branches as thick as my ankles. I remember thinking there's no way I can outrun this thing, and if it wanted to, it could easily catch me. Being unarmed at the time didn't help with the fear factor, and at that point, I knew if I survived that day, I would never venture into the woods unarmed again. Like I said before, a flood of overwhelming thoughts in seconds. I knew to get back to camp, I had to go toward this thing. I knew to get back to camp, I had to go toward where this thing was just standing a second before. Just like my grandfather did. Mentioned to me. He didn't like that. I remember thinking the sounds I heard earlier that I thought were deer must have been this creature following me. When I made that left uphill to get out of the rhododendron, I must have inadvertently flanked it. My thoughts were this thing was stalking me. That's when the almost 20 years of infantry training kicked in, you see. In an ambush situation, you always charge into the contact. You never go any other direction because that's where the real trap is. Sounds crazy, but at that point I just bolted in the direction of where I first saw it. I tell you the truth, I didn't know that I could even run that fast. I never even looked back because I was in full panic mode. But I knew if I did slow down a little, I would eventually fall, being that it was rocky and downhill. I remember thinking if I fell, I would surely been injured bad and in bigger trouble. And somehow I gained my composure and slowed myself down a little bit, kept running for what felt like 3 miles until I came to the river. Funny, I never told my buddy that took me on the trip about it. I'm not even sure why I kept it to myself. Maybe because I carried a black rifle and 210 rounds for a living. I didn't want to risk being listed as crazy or unfit for duty. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure if I got a look at his face at all. Or if I did, I must have somehow blocked it out of my memory because I was so scared. I think I may have went into slight shock because I felt sick instantly. I know it definitely saw me first. As soon as I started heading down the logging path towards it, I heard it move. I looked up. At the same time, it turned to its right and took off like a bat out of hell. It busted through that rhododendron at amazing speed. What would have taken me 15 minutes to climb and weave through, it plowed through in seconds. I think the sound of the snapping branches made it even worse, knowing the power that it would take to snap those thick branches. I've had nightmares about this big guy, and in them, his face looked more human than not, and the head was shaped kind of like a coconut, still in the outer shell. In the dreams, it's never aggressive, but it still scares the hell out of me with its enormous size. I know one thing. If I would have had a camera, I never would have had the time to take a picture, nor would have tried. It's too close. It all happened so fast. I really hope I never see another. At least not that close. I've heard that they're supposed to smell bad, but I didn't smell anything out of the ordinary. The hair was not as long as I have heard in other reports either. Maybe being early summer, the hair is shorter. I don't know. I often get a feeling that maybe that area is a part of a migration route. But I have no idea where that idea even came from. Weird, I know. I'm thinking that's why I couldn't find Indian hunting camps along that stream. Maybe the Indians knew and stayed away. I know if I had a topo map of that quadrangle, I could pinpoint the exact location due to the terrain features. Even to this day, every time I go hunting or into the woods, it's in the back of my mind. No doubt. Mine too. I swear to God this is 100% true and to the best of my recollection. Jeff Miller, and you gave me your address and your phone number. Appreciate it, man. P.S. Please feel free to edit at your discretion. And if you ever get to Pennsylvania, you would be more than welcome to come hunt whitetail on my land with me any day. There's some big bucks there, man. Appreciate that offer. What do we got here? Another P.S. The next part and photos were sent to me by the researcher after I made my report. Hi, Jeffrey. Doing some research to add your report to the map. Check this out. I mapped another report from 5 years earlier at almost literally the same exact location. It almost sounds exactly. Oops, hold on a minute. Whoops. Had a quick interruption there. I'm back. Oops. Here we go. Whoopsie berries. Carrying on with his P.S. P.S. Please feel free to edit it at your discretion. And if you ever get into Pennsylvania, that would be more than... Alright, we don't edit shit here. We don't edit nothing here, ever. The next part and photos were sent to me by the researcher after I made my report. Hi, Jeffrey. Doing some research, add your report to the map. Check this out. I mapped another report from 5 years earlier at almost literally the exact same location. It almost sounds exactly like your encounter, except they had a smell. I bet you $5 it is probably the same one that you saw that day. I added an attachment of a map picture. Your location would be in red and the older one in blue. Details below. Nisbet, Lycoming County, Pennsylvania, Big Run area, 1 mile up from Susquehanna River, 2 miles from River Road. Observed. A companion and I rode hiking through an old area of creek commonly referred to as the Beaver Dam. We're just coming around a bend in the creek when we saw something move behind a fallen pine tree. We then proceeded to get a better view as to what we thought was a deer or a bear. And as we approached the thing we thought was a deer, it became very clear to us it wasn't. It seemed to be kneeling down near the base of a fallen tree. It must have heard our approach because it stood up and turned towards the thick brush up the mountain 20 yards ahead of us and ran in an amount of only 10 or so steps into the brush. The only time we got to look at the creature was when it turned around to run. It had a sort of a man-like head, but with a full brown, haired body like a gorilla. The air had a foul, rotten, musty smell to it. It must have been at least 7 feet tall, with long arms. We were about 30 yards away from the fallen tree. It ran into the thick mountain laurel. Other witnesses. Hiking along the creek towards the old beaver dam. Environment: a long creek coming down the mountain in an area thick with mountain laurel and pine trees. And there you go. So, there is Pennsylvania and their map, I guess, with a whole shit pile of sightings going on there. And there is the location of the original emailers' 2 experiences right there. Me mapping them out, for me, what I know at this stage of the game, doesn't mean much to me at all, because I think by now I can accept the fact that this can, does, will, and does happen where it's never happened before in somebody's example, 75 years of living there. Right? It can happen anytime, anywhere, and that's all there is to it. Fact. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Now, I think I gotta get going again. I found some real cheap hay, which is very cool. For all those curious, get this one. Last year, or hay shortage last year, as a feed store up the road selling square bales, 60-pound bales, for $35. Can you believe that? $35. Anyway, I found, I think the last square bales I bought, I paid, I don't know what the hell I paid, $14 or something. What do you do? And then, but I just recently found a guy, a very kind farmer up the road. And he said that he had so many people looking for hay last year with the big hay shortage. He grew or got more hay this year, and now he's got over 400 bales sitting there. And I'm like, oh, hell, I'll come and grab a whole bunch of them. He's like, oh, it'd be great, just up the road. I go, how much you want for them? He goes, $9 okay? And I'm like, that's fine. Sweet. $9 square bales. That's great news. So I'm going to get my trailer cleared off and get geared up for doing that. I'm going to get as many as I can fit in my frickin' barn. Because who knows what's happening next year, right? Now, moving along. Share my story, howtohunt.com. Oh, Sarah's decals are still creeping out and venturing around the frickin' globe. What else? I think that's about it. Subscriptions to the channel, memberships, whatever you want to call it. It's an option. If you want to help feed some kids around here, greatly appreciate it. If not, that's fine too. Hopefully you can maybe possibly motivate somebody, people in your community, to do the same. Because believe me, they are there. I was really taken back when I first become aware of how many hungry children there are in my back frickin' yard in Canada. Meanwhile, the criminal who's somehow in that position, well, he's a puppet, just got outed for spending $240,000 on just food on airlines for his entourage on a recent little trip they took. $240,000 they spent on food. It was a couple years ago. There was an investigation on the criminal piece of shit for throwing down $500 million or $50 million, whatever it was. Who gives a shit? It was $50 million or $500 million? $50 million to build an app during the CVID bullshit. And they got an investigation, but they stopped the police from investigating it. It was traced back to a couple guys in a basement suite. Anyway, I'll bite my lip. But it just really irks me that this kind of money is floating around. And here I am scraping up $5 at a time from people to go feed some children who are starving in this frickin' country. It can really trigger you to start spracking off about it, right? Right? In the so-called modern world, right? Anyway. Yeah, I'll bite my lip. I follow a lot of global events all the time. So if you knew what I followed all together, you'd probably give me a pat on the back for biting my lip as much as I do here. Without going on ripperoo tangents non-stop. Anyway, another thing too about the Christmas thing. Don't forget. I know there's a lot of people out there who are dreading. They can't stand this time of year. Dreading it. And I feel you. Been there. Said it before. I'm saying it again. I've been there. You just can't wait for this time of year to just get done and go away. Well, every quick reminder, I will, and I told Sarah yesterday, or day before I confirmed, that we are going to be here, and I am doing a live on Christmas Day. So that every single person here that might have a weird feeling that you don't count, you count. You count big time in that day. We're all going to come here and hang out live. We'll talk about anything. I don't give a shit what we talk about. We're going to do that. And also, for all you other people out there who do have a big plate of turkey that you're going to throw down for your family, listen to me. I'll guarantee you, all you people out there who've got the big Christmas shit going down, I'll guarantee you there's somebody in your circle that's flying under the radar that you're bypassing that you should probably think about and go grab them. Go get them. And make them come over and sit up to that table. All right? Look around. I'm just saying. Look around, because they are going to do that. They know how to fly under the radar. They know how to be passed by, and more or less hide in the shadows until this time of year goes by. It doesn't do anything for their mental health in a good way. So I'm just saying, all you guys that might have an extra chunk of turkey sitting there, trust me, there's somebody flying under your radar close to you that you need to look for and make sure you pull them out of that dark closet and get them up to the plate and make sure they know the count. Okay? Okay, and they'll probably try to worm out of it. Don't let them. Don't let them worm out of it. Drag them over. Go get them. Go get them. Drag them out of that little hidey hole and make sure you bring them to your house for a plate of yummy food and to make sure they feel like they count. And people thought about them and thinking about them, and it'll really make a big difference for those people. All right? And I'll remind you guys to do that as we go through this next... holy shit, it's almost exactly less than a month till that big day, right? But I'll keep reminding people and encouraging people to make sure you do that, okay? Start now. Start thinking about who it is you know in your circle that doesn't deserve to be alone. And they're going to try and going to try to cruise under that radar and make sure they get missed at Christmas time by everybody, and just... It's not right. There you go. Share my story, howtohunt.com. Get me your truth. Get it into me. Or else. I should be back tomorrow.